Welcome to another exciting episode of Humanity 8.0, a podcast where we talk about our post-truth present and our transhuman future, with the aim of sketching out the outlines of what awaits us in the years and the decades ahead of us. This podcast is brought to you by Rokos. Companies with limited IT budgets and personnel can now get the same cybersecurity protection as big enterprises. Rokos' Secure Access Service Edge, SASE solution, with zero trust, provides enterprise-grade comprehensive cybersecurity so that you can focus on your business. For more, please visit www.rokos.com. That's ROQOS.com. And now, here's your host, Dr. Ahmed Bouzid, founder and CEO of Witlingo.
I'm just stunned by the quality. Another one is there are folks who basically have a podcast, and then there's this guy asking, I said, so just tell me the truth. You know, they use Patreon, right? To finance, right? Tell me the truth. Are you making a living with this? He said, not only a living, but a comfortable living.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
A comfortable living, right? And I'm saluting him. And what he does is he takes on all the Western philosophers and even Eastern philosophers, and he has half-hour episode talking about the main concepts, you know, Nietzsche or Marx
Oh, that's
or
awesome.
Hegel and all that.
Who is that? I want to check that out.
It's called Philosophize This. I'll share that with you and the audience. And he's not the only one, and that's another thing, right? He's not the only one because the market is so huge that it can accommodate many others who are doing the same thing, right? And so now, like my son, he's taking a philosophy class. I say, you know, so you're doing Hume, right? Yeah. Why don't you go and check out? Just listen to that half hour, and it's pleasant to listen to. And it's not, and all of these guys, what I love about them is that they try to get you to relax and not to think that this is more complicated than it is. Now, compare that to university classes, and I see that the classes my son is taking was junior in Pitt. And I was looking at his philosophy class. It's intimidating. They have to read original texts, right? The professor is there and he's just talking. It's like a chore for him and so forth. Why don't you, do we need, so my question would be like, do we need this institution that belongs to, I don't know, the 18th century?
Right. It's not, it's, by the way,
yeah,
because I'm now working on a book about the ancient Middle Mesopotamia this was a point someone made to me. If you had a time machine and you went back to Babylon or Sumer or Ur 4,500 years ago, you'd walk around, everything would be a little strange.
Yeah.
Walk in a classroom, you'd know exactly what
it's
it is.
It's the same, right?
It's the exact same thing.
It's somebody telling you and you taking notes.
Yeah. Yes.
And they don't care whether you're scared. No, in fact, they want to make it so that you are going to feel like, oh, wow, there's a big distance between me and this person. They know a lot and I don't know nothing. Whereas these folks who are teaching, they take the time to be very smart in terms of enabling you to relax, to listen, not to be scared, so you can learn, because they want you to come back and learn more, right?
Yes.
So the business model sort of comes in again. So let me ask you this. So let's say, and I think we're going there, right? So if we take let's say, for example, we take the folks who have these lessons about the base, right? Or about philosophy or about whatever it may be. And there are many of these passionate folks who just they know what they're doing and they have created a stream of revenue. Okay. Now, let's say somebody wants to gather all those bases and so forth, right? And create and give them money and buy them out, so to speak, and create this massive place where if you want to learn the base, go here and you can find all these instructors, right? And let's say whoever is financing this is taking long term, so they give these guys pretty good, nice bonus at the beginning, and they give them a salary and so on. And now it becomes base.com, a place where you can go and you can find. Yeah. Now, tell me why that would not happen, given what we have seen up to this point of concentration. You know, why wouldn't a group of VCs who have lots of money do that, knowing that if they do this and they have this captive audience, they can use ads and they can just scale up the revenue? why wouldn't that happen? And what can we do to prevent it if we think that's not a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, it can happen, but it can't happen and maintain that passion, right? That is the issue. So yes, I think you're right that I don't like saying never. I mean, maybe some brilliant VC could figure out a way to make it happen in little nuances, but let's talk about what the actual thing is what is happening. Why is the 21st century different from the 20th?
Yes.
And so in the 20th century, there was essentially a buffer between the person creating value and the person receiving the value. So if I work at a big company and we make Snickers bars, or we're accountants, or whatever we are, there's a set of steps between me creating it and you receiving it. There's institutional standards. So if we're a corporate attorney or a corporate accountant, or we're a software developer, or we're whatever we are, we make, blenders or whatever it is, there's all these structures, the hourly billing rates, the maybe, the practices of the firm, or just what will get you, make people look down on you. So it's extremely hard for a person to know really what is the value I'm creating. It was all structured. It was all, there was a buffer between you and that person. And that's true for, I mean, obviously it's true for like the person working on the assembly line at Ford Motor Company. I'm twisting this lever. How much value does that add? But that's even true for like the CEO. They don't, it's such a massive group. So what makes the passion economy different is that buffer is removed and you are directly interacting. So that base instructor has to, sort of by definition, really understand how his base lessons are engaging an audience. I was talking to a guy from Colombia who has done very, very well for himself teaching English to Spanish speakers. And but what I found striking is he has a huge audience, but he's constantly engaged with that audience, understanding what to adapt, what new ways they want to learn, what else he can do. So I think what would happen if, let's say you and I decide, okay, we're going to hire all the base teachers and we're going to have base.com, we're rebuilding that 20th century buffer. So we're basically, what we're doing is we're averaging out the value creation process. So I'm paying $50 a month and I can use any of the base instructors. And one day I like this guy, the next day I like that guy. But it's creating that institutional distance between the instructor and their student, where it's going to blunt that message. It's going to blunt that communication between the two people. So I think that's why inherently that passion is going to diminish. You look at Masterclass. I think I'm like a lot of people. I saw Masterclass. I got all excited. I signed up, and pretty quickly it sort of seems kind of generic. It's not like, it's weird that a Masterclass with a truly famous person isn't as exciting as a much worse shot YouTube video by someone I never heard of before. I have my favorite, I was trying to look it up because I forgot her name, but I have my favorite philosophy channel, and it's a different philosophy channel. I'm just forgetting her name. I want to give her credit. It's
okay. You can always
Ellie Anderson of the Overthink podcast. Ellie Anderson of Overthink. It would be interesting for us to both watch both. Maybe we like both of them. Maybe you prefer this one, I prefer that one. It's okay.
No, I listen to many, and that's the beauty, is that it's up to me and my mood. But go on.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. So
but the question to you is this. Yes, I think I agree. No, not only do I think, but I agree 100% with you that it would blunt that, the really, really important part of the whole, the whole proposition there. But what can we do, or what would keep that from happening, given what the logic and what VCs are all about? They're all about, finding places where clearly these guys have, that's what VCs do, by the way, like the ones who know what they're doing more or less.
Yeah.
They go and once they see that you are a money-making machine, they say, let me do you a favor. Let me give you more money. They're not doing you a favor because they found a machine. So they find the 10 of these bases and they're really good. And they say, okay, this is proven. There's a model. I'm going to scale it.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
So yes. And so I personally do not want investors. And the reason I don't want investors is twofold. Like I'm starting a business that's called Story As. You could go to story.as. I kind of use the narrative techniques I've been trained in to help companies better tell their story.
Yeah.
And I've had some offers to give investment. I have, and probably I'd be making more money today. We could get a little bigger, but investment, in my mind, it does two things. So one is you now have a boss, like your investor is your boss. And if you have three investors, you have three different bosses. And very often they disagree, but they won't talk to each other. They just, each one wants you to do what they want. And
the irrationality that we ran away with comes back from the back door. Yeah,
exactly. It's a nightmare. But then also you are shifting from a passion-centered business to a outcomes money-centered business. And I have a few friends who started VC-backed companies with a passion idea. Every single case, the passion was gone within a year, and it became a totally different metrics-driven beast. I started a company with some investors, and we had conversation after conversation after conversation that we had a long-term vision of deep engagement, that quarterly metrics weren't important, but just there's a center of gravity to quarterly metrics. It's just really hard for investors
not to get some of that. Yeah.
Not to say like, well, you got to do this. Oh, if you just do this little thing, it's not going to kill your passion. It'll just help goose the revenue. And before long, you're just in a different business.
Yes.
So what I mean, this is what I tell people. If you want to be crazy rich, finance or VC is probably your best path, but you'll be miserable probably unless you happen to love this kind of life.
Yeah.
If you want to be solidly do well, I mean, I don't know. Do you really need, like, over the last several years since I've embraced this, I'll just say I've made between 300,000 and 700,000 a year. I can't imagine needing a lot more than that. That's pretty good. Like I fly first class when I want to. I have a nice house. And it's a pretty good life. And this year I'm making less because I'm investing myself in a new approach with the hope that it'll pay off, but that's okay. Like I'm making that choice. There's no one but me and maybe my wife and my son, telling me what I should be doing.
My thinking is exactly along the lines of what you're saying, which is, I think the reason why we will not see that happen, we won't see, these VCs won't be able to successfully just grab these folks, and right, because these folks have made this their way of life, right? And they understand the trade-off, right? It's not like they're doing it as a anybody who did it as a compromise or just short term has gone back. But folks who are successful, they love what they're doing, and they are sophisticated enough to understand that, at least most of them, I think, given that they have stuck at it and they know what they're doing and don't want to lose that control. As soon as you get into that world, right, it's gonna just poof, it's gonna disappear. It's incompatible. That's number one.
It's a different goal. It's a different. It's like saying, how come when I go to McDonald's they don't custom make a beautiful meal for me that's my preference? It's
exactly.
Or when I go to a prostitute, why isn't it as satisfying as my marriage? It's like it's a fundamentally different goal. Now VCs are very good at, because what people don't realize is the VCs are desperate for deal flow. They're desperate to sign up entrepreneurs. I mean, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, the VCs have all the power, but the VCs, especially below the top 2 or 3, are desperate to sign you up. And so they will tell you what they're salespeople, and they weirdly, they're going to say, oh, all we care about is your vision. We have a long-term strategy. We don't care about,
They just want to close you because they went and spent a year raising, I don't know, $1 billion. And now they need to spend it. Otherwise people are going to wonder.
Yes.
And so they get 10 companies. One of them is going to succeed. The other one won't, but that they don't care, right? As long as hopefully for them. For me, here's the following, right? I think the two, going, say, the VC way, and then building your thing slowly. Maybe you get an angel fund, and usually angel funding is very different because it's a person that you know, and they really care, and they don't really want a return. They just want to be part of this thing, right? But VC is very ruthless, right? I think the two, it's not a question of different. I think one is superior to the other in the following sense, right? You know, people who are rich, who spend their life making money and just trying to increase that, you know, that wealth, and that's what they do. They do that at the expense of everything else. Towards the end of their life, realize that they have been foolish because they have, in fact, forgot that money is a means. It's not an end. It's a means to what? To happiness, security, and so forth, right? And so they lost that that happiness, and they lost the ultimate goal, right? You know, you make, I mean, I think people are getting more sophisticated right now, as far as trying to create a balance and so on. But still, the pursuit of money just for itself is just incompatible with the pursuit of happiness in itself, right?
Yes.
And it just leads you to do different things, right? To prioritize things on a daily basis, right? You don't say, for this whole week, I'm just going to forget about my family. Every single day is special, and so you're trying to be fulfilled. So it's the whole ethos, I think, is totally different. What do you think?
Obviously, I 100% agree. Now, I don't think money is irrelevant. Like, I do, you know, the economic analysis that I see is, if you look around the world, below a certain level of income and wealth,
there's anxiety.
There's deep anxiety. There's major health issues. So
absolutely,
I really hate it when people say, oh, I went to Haiti and everyone seemed so happy, or I went to this rural part of India and everyone was so happy. No. Being poor sucks and is terrible. It's the worst, and you have fewer choices. And so, and it's important to remember that there are more people on earth today for whom just subsistence is a daily challenge. And so I just like what we're talking about
absolutely
are sort of wealth, like wealthy people problems, and wealthy globally. Like, if you're making 50 grand a year in America, you are wealthy on a global stage.
Absolutely.
Even if there are real inequality issues in America as well, which are serious, and I don't want to belittle. I spent a lot of time in Haiti, and I would come back to America, and it actually was a problem. I had a hard time having empathy for poor people in America, which I do have empathy for poor people in America, but it's just when you see true poverty, like deep, like your babies will likely die, you know, because you're so poor. You know, the average Haitian will never see a doctor in their entire life. They will never see a medical professional in their entire life. They will see many, many close family members die of very easily preventable illnesses. You know, and their daily search for food and sustenance. So anyway, I always like to remind myself.
No, that's important. That's very important. And I sort of have a message like that for folks, young folks, right? I say, you know, or middle-aged folks who have this crisis and they say, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. It's like, okay, well, do you have a family? Yes. All right. Do you have enough money to sustain it for the next 2 years at least if you quit your job? No. Well, don't quit your job. By the way, here's the thing. Your job is your job, but you have lots of hours during the day. If you just structure your time.
Yes, exactly.
Start, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't, the message here is not everyone should quit their job today and just jump in.
No, absolutely not. You know, I didn't.
And that is when someone calls me for advice. The first question I ask is, how is your financial situation? Because if they say, depending, if you're 24 and you have $5 grand in the bank and you could move in with some friends or your parents, like,
do it.
It might be okay to risk it. You know, if you don't have kids, you don't have a spouse, you don't have a mortgage. And I think people in their 20s don't realize how crucial that period is for experimentation. They're so desperate to get on the career.
They want to go and get shackled, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, but that's a separate issue. So yes, so I think that up to some number, let's call it 100,000, maybe it's 200,000. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's different for each person, but on average, more money does tend to lead to more happiness. Above that number, there doesn't seem to be a huge benefit. And there's definitely diminishing returns. Once you reach a life where you can choose what to do, more money is not, and again, just look at rich people.
Yeah.
Does Donald Trump look like that's a happy guy who's really living his every day? He feels happy and satisfied. Does Elon Musk, does Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, maybe he kind of seems
Warren Buffett,
like,
because I think the interesting thing about Warren Buffett is that because he has explicitly said that he enjoys the game of making money.
yes,
That's it. I mean,
That's
just
it.
he doesn't want to do anything with it, whatever. He lives, and he doesn't even want to give it to his children. He's like, you guys need to make your own money, right?
Right, exactly. And he still has this small house in Omaha that I've driven by, and he does have some weird things like two wives, and that's kind of weird, but it seems to work for them. But here's what I would say: there is something powerfully seductive. We are social creatures,
yes,
and it is built into our evolution, into our brains, to compare ourselves to others, to respond over much to signals of status, and that's not just human beings. I mean, look at at apes and even birds. And this is sexual selection. It's a deep need, and there's something so seductive about wealth because it's so simple. There's a number, and that number puts you in a hierarchy, and you and I can have a conversation, and you're higher or I'm higher. The thing with wealth, though, is there's always someone higher. There's always that next person. And it's been fascinating watching Elon Musk, because by this wealth standard, he won. He was the richest man ever. And is there anyone more miserable, more desperate, more pathetic on the face of the earth, at least in my view, than Elon Musk? And he wants something that he isn't able to get. He wants this kind of, and Trump too, they want this kind of, Trump isn't nearly as rich as people think he is, but that's a separate issue. They want, Adam Smith said, what do people want? They want to be loved, and they want to deserve the love. The language he uses, they want to be lovely. They want to be lovable. That we want people to admire us, and we want to be admirable. We don't want to fake it. We want it. And money is the wrong metric, but it's such a good metric in every way except the ways that truly matter. So think about the people in your life. Who do you really look at? You probably I have a cousin who's a 5th grade teacher. I have, there are people I know who seem like, there's just a calm happiness that I admire. None of them are very rich. I'd like to be richer than I am. I'm not saying everyone needs to be poor. I'd like to have some real money. I like travel. I like traveling. Now that I'm in my 50s, I like to stay in nicer places. I like to fly in better conditions. I'm not saying I don't care about money, but I see money as a tool to achieve something else. It's not the goal in and of itself. So I think we're saying the same thing.
No, definitely, absolutely. It's important for I think for the audience to hear us talk about that in more simply than stating that money is not everything. I think it is. We want money. We want, there's this conflict going on. Once in a while, we feel jealous. Then we have to calm ourselves down. We have to go back and say, what are my values? Am I doing the things that make me happy? When I wake up in the morning, do I feel that pit in my stomach, or do I feel like, damn it, this blanket I need to get rid of the blanket as quickly as possible so I can go and do my work. Right?
Exactly.
Where's my coffee? I want to get my coffee so I can go and sit down. So I want to be able to have my coffee, by the way. I want to be able to have my Wi-Fi. All these things are expensive, by the way, right? To have my space, my books, blah, blah, blah. All these things require money. So I know where to spend my money. Right.
Yes.
I'm not the big traveler kind of a guy, but I do once in a while I want to travel. I want to travel to certain places and in certain ways. I wouldn't be able to do that if I was strapped, but at the same time, I don't crave, having my own private jet. Never, ever. I don't crave having a fancy car. Not even once has it occurred to me. Or a massive house. Why would I get a massive house, and then what do I do with that? Because I'm always in the corner, to be honest with you.
Right, exactly. Right.
If my corner is comfortable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
now, one thing I do want to say, I know we're close to time, but choosing the passion economy doesn't mean every minute is happy, and it doesn't mean every minute is calm. That when you go, like, one nice thing about a job is you can have extended periods where you really don't care that much. Like, you're being paid to show up, and you're kind of bored. You kibitz with your friends at the office.
Yeah.
When you are really engaged with your passion, with something that, let's say you're a bassist and you friggin' love the bass and you love teaching people how to play bass, you might be up at 3 a.m. worried. It might drive you crazy when someone says your new YouTube videos have been terrible. You really lost it. It might be agonizing in a way the old job wasn't agonizing. In my view, though, it's better, and this is a values thing and a philosophical thing, it is better, if you're going to have a pit in the stomach, it's better to be a pit in the stomach about stuff you truly care about, and that you have control and agency over, so you can address it, than to just the arbitrary thing of, is my boss mad at me? Are there going to be layoffs? Am I going to lose my job?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's actually, that's a very, very important point, because I think the anxieties, and you're right, one has anxieties when one is trying to do something and wants to succeed. I want to succeed. I want to deliver a great product, and I get a comment that says this feature sucks, or whatever, right? So I don't like it, right? But the thing is, how do I deal with it is going to enable me to grow in a healthy way, as opposed to, how do I grow when I'm in the office and have anxiety and all that? I become more, I don't know, hard-shelled. I'm not growing in the right way. I'm becoming this creature that is probably going to be cruel towards my underlings, if I want to call them that, right?
Exactly.
You just become a creature that is not evolving in an organic way, where, okay, I need to take comments constructively, because you know why? Because this is the customer, and really there's nothing personal. They want the product to be better. Right. And then
this happened to me this morning. I delivered something on Wednesday. I was very proud of it. I thought it was great. It was to a client.
Yeah.
They were so horrified. They hated it. And they thought I was cheating them. Like, it was really bad. It was really bad
for them. Yeah.
And it was hard. I felt ashamed. I felt deep shame.
Yeah.
Last night, I woke up at 4 a.m, worried about it, but then I thought of a solution. I recorded a voice note with my solution, and I slept like a baby. And now I feel kind of excited. I feel like I've solved a problem, and in a whole new way. I learned a major lesson. I think I can repair it with the client.
There you go. Yeah. And it's, again, like you said, it's directly with the client. It's not 5 steps removed from the value, right?
Yeah, it's not my boss guessing what a customer they'll never meet thinks, and
then you're trying to please your boss, who may or may not eventually deliver the right thing, and so forth. So I think that that definitely is so I love that we're ending on that note, because it goes back to value, right? And it goes back to personal growth, right? That we're growing here, and that's, I think, a couple of big differences between the two. After this, you and you'll send me some links, whatever you want me to put on the show notes, because I want people to get the most out of this conversation. And I want to thank you so much, Adam, for making it a time.
Yeah, it's really been such a pleasure, and I'd love to stay in touch. Yeah, we're thinking about the same things. Yeah.
Well,
I will say in Arabic, sharafna, that it's wonderful to meet you. And
shukran jazilan wa salama.
Wa alaikum wa salam. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Humanity 8.0 with your host, Dr. Ahmed Bouzid, founder and CEO of Witlingo. Brought to you by Rokos. Thanks for listening.